Okay, let's talk about drilling with the new hole making. So here I got a part with some holes, a couple blind holes, a couple through holes that are going through the slot here. I duplicated the part on the other side, and on the other side I made 4 of the holes kind of square so we'd have to mill them. So basically I want to drill down through the centers of those eventually, so I'll show you how to do that. I made the stock kind of stepped so it was unusual to show you kind of a nice feature, one of the nice features of the new drilling functionality. So I got this thing on a fixture. It's basically set up on a DMU right now. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off the palette. And let's go ahead and turn off the, let's not the step riser. Let's do the, we'll leave it like that. Okay, simplify it up a little bit. Let's go into our manufacturing, into our geometry group. And first thing I'll do is I'll go to my blank. And this is where you define your material. The material is all preset to be 18K for the DMU. I'm going to pick the stock as the outside. And then I'm going to go into part. And for the part, I'm going to go in and pick those guys. So there my part and stock are picked. There's my stock, there's my part. I'm going to go down into holes and aluminum here. And I've got hole milling and hole drilling. So I'm going to pick the hole drilling one. I'm going to pick this whole group. In this group, I've got a predefined spot drill, a countersink drilling operation, and a deep hole, sort of like a peck drilling operation that are built into that. I'm just going to grab this whole thing. I'm going to copy it and go up underneath my part geometry that I picked. And just for organization reasons, I'm going to go ahead, because right now I'm doing along, let's say, Y positive. I'm just going to put it under Y positive. Now, just so you know, this Y positive normally controls a tool axis in milling, but in this case, holes work off the hole direction, the direction at the size for the hole. So there's my operations. I'm going to go into the geometry group. I'm going to pick my holes. And get the next one. Pick these guys. And so there's all my holes, right? At this point in the geometry group, I mean, it shows like a reverse option, and you ideally you really can't do this in most situations here. But what you can do is reorganize the holes. So for instance, if I pick here, like that's the first one, I can use my down arrow on my keyboard and go through these. And let's say I want that one to be my first one. I could pick this option here, which is move it to the top of the list, and that becomes the top of the list. And I can go down here to optimize and say, give me the shortest path, and reorder the list. And you can see the new reordered path. I'm going to go and accept that. And let's go into spot drilling. If I go into spot drilling and go into geometry and go into the little geometry group, it shows me all the little spot faces at the centers of all those holes at the top of the part, right? Well, I really don't want to cut at the top of the part because, to tell you the truth, I really haven't milled out this blank yet, so I still got material there. I want to start that hole at the top of this material. So up here in the process area where it says local process workpiece, I can set it to 3D. And when I do that, it's going to go out and look at the part, and it's going to automatically take and move those whole beginnings out to the beginning of my stock. So even if I'd milled this and left some stock on it, the stock that I left, it would still start drilling at that stock distance. It's a pretty nice feature. Those are kind of small, so if I want, I can unlock the depth here and change that to, say, 0.75 to increase the size of that. We can see them bigger, but so there we go. But you know, I don't want like really spot drilling on a slanted face like that. I mean, if this was plastic or aluminum, I could probably get by with it, but ideally I like to mill a little flat in there. So let's take a totally different scenario. I'm just going to undo that whole thing, and I'm just going to take this whole thing, I'm just going to copy it, I'm going to paste it again back, paste inside. And so now I got 2 different sets there. And I'm not going to really use the spot drilling, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that. And I'm going to delete this one here. And we can use this hole deep if we want to spot it down, or I could just go in a single step For instance, if I wanted to just add a drilling operation, maybe I'll add one to the template, just a straight drilling. I can just go to operation and just add a straight drill. This is the drill deep. Here's the drill. So I'm not going to really drill. I'm just going to call it. I'm going to call it spot face. And for the tool, rather than a spot drill, I'm going to go ahead and pick this here while I'm at it. I'm going to call this a. It's a 2mm hole. There's a 196 a little too small. I'd rather go bigger than smaller, so I'm going to pick this 1/8 inch, 3.15. And the method I really don't care that much about, but here I'll put the program view at this setup one. Hit OK. And I go into here, and it's got all these holes because they were pre-selected already, so I'm going to get rid of most of them. Let's go in and actually that needs to be in the geometry group because that's where I picked them, so let's go in the geometry group for a second again and get rid of all these guys and just pick that one and that one. Okay, let's go back into our drill deep. Actually, it's, oh, that's right, let's delete this one, and I'm going to use my spot face one I created, which is a straight drilling routine. And I'm going to go back into geometry, and it shows me, you know, that's what that cutter would do. It's showing me the diameter, it's showing me the depth on the hole, which I probably want to go a little extra deep to clear up that radius. But the reality is, I want to do a similar thing, so I'm going to go into here and change this to 3D. And when I do, it comes out to the top. Now it's the center of the top. And since I kind of broke that open and they're through holes, even though they're going into a slot, it still looks at it as the through hole. It's trying to go all the way through the blank. So I just have to change the depth of those two holes, right? So I'll just pop in here to the depth. And rather than 53, I'm going to make those, say, 10. And actually, on this guy, I want a spot face, so I'm going to make it really shallow. So I'm going to make that like 2, because I really just want to do a little spot face, and that's deep enough for a spot face. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and accept that. For the top portion, actually, it's built into the operation automatically. If I go to cutting parameters, it's already set to extend it 3mm above the top of the hole before it starts. So I'm going to just change that to 2, because 3 is actually quite a bit. I'm going to accept that, and we can go ahead and just generate that. So there I've got my little spot milling routine, right? If I go into here and look at this and play it, okay, so there's my 2 spot for my flat faces. I'm going to cut and go ahead and accept that, accept that. Let's go into the next hole making operation. So if I go into here, and this time I actually want to just pick all the holes, right? So I'm going to go ahead and pick that one, that one, that one, that one, that one, and that one. And here again, you can inherit the order from the parent view, or I could go into here independently and pick a hole, say I want that one to be the beginning. I can move it to the top and go in here and say give me the shortest path, and it'll just reorganize the holes. Okay, and I'm going to go into spot drill. And if I go into spot drill now and go into geometry, and you can see it's again it's showing me the top of the part, but if I go into process workpiece and set it to 3D, now it's recognizing these are at the top, but here it recognizes that I have milled out that counterbore. It's at the tops of those counterbores. So here I'll go ahead and make these a little bigger. And there you can see them. Go into here and generate that. And so if I go in and play that, you'll see, let me just do that the first time, and then we can see the counterbore, and go ahead and run this. And you can see I got the same size countersinks in all those little spot faces and all those faces, including the thing. So that's pretty slick. Turn that off, go ahead and accept it. I'm going to go into, I'm going to get rid of this since I'm not doing a countersink. A countersink works off the chamfer of the hole. There's no chamfers on these holes. We'll automatically figure out the depth by the diameter of the countersink, no matter how big the actual tool is. I'm going to go ahead and delete this. And we're just going to use the drill deep now. And again, I'm going to go into geometry. And so, there's my geometry looking at the actual holes. But there again, I want to go to look at the part. So I'm going to go here and set it to 3D. Because it really looks at the blank other than the blind holes, it's going to make these ones go all the way through the blank. The blind ones, it recognizes the bottoms of those. If I go in here and look at the wireframe version, you can see that these are going right to the bottoms of the holes. And these are going all the way through the blank. So I need to pick those out independently. So here I'll just reshade this. And let's open this up. And I can see my different depths, right? So I've got that one. I've got two shorter ones and two longer ones here. So actually here's a shorter one here. Those are my two short ones. I can see the depths. I'm going to go in there and unlock this and change those depths to, I don't know, let's try 8 millimeters. And there's my 8 millimeter. That works pretty good. We could probably make that 7. Let's see how that works. There's 7. Looks great. And see, it's starting them, from the bottom of that counterbore again. I'm going to pick the next two, which are these two here, and I'm going to make those, because that's going a little farther. Let's make those like 10. Okay, let's make those 12. 12 works just fine. And go ahead and accept those and generate them. Okay, so there's my drilling of all the holes. Looks great. If I go in and actually look at that, we can accept that. And there's my countersinks. Let's go ahead and drill these guys. Okay. Go and accept that. That's okay. So let's deal with the other side. And once again, I'm just going to take this whole countersink thing I picked in the bottom and go in and copy this and paste it inside of here. Actually, I'm going to go to the Y negative just to keep my stuff organized by side. That way I kind of know what I'm doing where. And here I'm going to pop into here, and I'm going to pick this hole here and this hole here. But for these holes, there's nothing to pick. I mean, I can't pick the corners. I don't want to drill out the corners. I want to drill through the center. So I'm going to go select by point. I'm going to pick point. And here I'm going to say between 2 points. And I'm going to say, make sure this is set to entire assembly up here. And also that this, because I'm in a point thing, it's using these snap points. So I'm going to pick it to end point. So I'm going to go from that end point to that end point. There's the middle point. I'm going to accept that. Now, because this part is sitting at the side, it doesn't know the point where it's drilling from, so it defaults going along Z. Well, that's not right, so I just have to grab this guy and just rotate that up 90 degrees. And I'll pick my next one. Go to point. Again, I'm going to go to between 2 points. I'm going to pick this one and this one. Again, it's rotated 90 degrees, so I'm just going to take that and rotate that up. Okay, and go to the next one. Again, I'm going to say between 2 points. Now I could have predefined points here as well. Accept that. Rotate this up. And do another one. Again, I'm going to say between 2 points and grab that one and that one. And again, bring that up to 90 degrees. And accept it. Okay, so I've got all my holes predefined. Again, if I go into spot these, into my geometry and look, and some of those ended up extra huge. You can see that for some 20 millimeters for some reason. I'm just going to change them all here temporarily to 0.75. Now we can see them all at that height, right? Again, I'm going to say use 3D. And again, even though they're with points, it recognizes the new distances. Of course, it changes those back to 20. It's a feature. I'll have to report that. And we'll change that to 0.75. And so, there's my holes. And I could do what I did last time and, go in and mill out that little section there. I'm going to leave this alone, pretend it's plastic or some soft aluminum that I really don't, not that critical. And I'm going to go and accept those and just generate it. Okay, so there's my spot drills for that. Of course, if I play that, and here we'll go ahead and play that through. I mean, that's what you get when you don't, mill a little flat, but still that'll work, especially in soft material. And as long as that center is breaking through, my drill should be okay. It should pick that up and work with it. I kind of like putting the flat in, but for this demonstration, since I did it on the other side, there's no reason to repeat it. I'm going to get rid of this countersink operation here, delete that. And then I'm going to go into drilling. Again, I'm going to go into geometry. There's my drill. I'm going to change this to use 3D. And there it's recognizing everything. Except when I change it to 3D, of course, these through holes, it just wants to go too deep. So I'm going to go ahead and edit those guys, right? So let's open this up. And we can see the two shallow ones here. I'm going to pick both of those and change their depth. To 7. I think that's what I used last time. Okay, let's make that 8. There's 8, breaking through, looks great. And let's take the other two, and I'll change those to, say, 12. And there's 12. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and accept that and generate. And without creating any extra geometry, I was able to have it recognize, my unusual blank configuration. And like I said, even if I'd milled that down and roughed it to different depths or whatever, it would recognize the 3D IPW for starting the drilling and drilling that through. Going in, spot that through. See, it's backing down through there. And there we go. And of course, in our display options, if we want to, we can put on some translucency there so we can see the part inside of it. And that's what we just drilled. So that was a very quick and dirty scenario on drilling. I mean, just if you wanted to start this whole thing over again and pick everything from scratch, ideally you need to delete the whole features. And just to show you where that's at, it's the next tab down from the operation navigator is this called machining feature navigator. If I open that up, these are all the holes that were predefined. So literally I could just pick all this and just tell it to delete it. And it'll just be at a fresh slate where I could start all over again and make brand new holes. I recommend doing that if you're going to do things over again. If you move stuff around and stuff, it's a good idea to do that. And yeah, that's a little bit on hole making. I realize there's a lot of subject matter there, so I'll probably make a number of videos. But you know where to find me.